Are you ready for the interview?
I am. I want to let you know that I have cue cards here. I'm not going to rely on them, but I've waited for this interview for a long time, and a thing about DPDR is that I have problems with my memory. So just to ensure that I remember what I want to say today and advocate for my community properly, I might look at them.
That's perfectly fine. Feel free to use them as much or as little as you like.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's very kind. Thank you, Chris.
You said because of DPDR, you have trouble with your memory.
Yes.
What is DPDR?
DPDR stands for Depersonalization, Derealization. Depersonalization is the disconnection and detachment from yourself, whereas sometimes I feel like I'm in a movie or playing a video game and I'm not really in control of my own actions, so to speak, or it's kind of like you feel like a robot or you're on autopilot or cruise control in a car. Like it's all, you're just going through the motions of life. Derealization is what I have most of the time, every day of my life for the past 14 years now. It's where the world around me doesn't feel real and my environment feels very dreamlike. I feel like I'm persistently in a dream, in a cloud. The people around me look weird, they're not real, nothing feels real.
Do you always feel like that?
I suffer from chronic derealization now. I do have moments of depersonalization where I don't feel real, but my derealization happens 24/7. I'm in a dreamlike scape. I had a very stressful time, turbulent time, over a decade ago now, and my brain's reaction to that stress was to put me in a dreamlike world. Well, it's a very anxiety-inducing condition. When you're ripped out of reality and you just you have such an overwhelming sense of fear because you don't know what you're dealing with. You're looking at everyone around you and you're thinking, do these people think I'm crazy? Do they see it on my face that I don't think I'm real? There's been so many times where I question the reality of my experiences. Am I real? Are you real? Are the closest people around me real? The friendships that I've had for decades, my family, are you real? They start to look weird and disconnected as well. So it's always my biggest hope that they don't see that on my face, and they've told me they don't. They never do.
So it's not just a feeling of being detached. You actually start to question if things are real?
100%. There's times where the dream feels so real. The dreamlike world that I'm living in feels so real that it's hard to kind of even remember what it was like to not be in that state of derealization.
So you said you feel like you're in a constant fog, like almost a dream-like state. So when your brain sees yourself, like, do you see that as you?
Yeah, there's been moments where I get home from a public event or a function and I'm kind of like gripping the sink and I'm looking at my hands and I'm looking in the mirror and I need to persistently remind myself that this is me, it's okay, I am me. And that's when it's really bad though. On a day-to-day basis, like right now, I just feel like I'm dreaming, and it's kind of foggy, but I'm totally in control.
Is DPDR something that somebody is born with or do they acquire it?
So DPDR happens as a direct response to trauma. And the best way I like to explain it to people, there's been studies about DPDR where they're thinking it has to do with the fight or flight part of the brain. And instead of fleeing or fighting, people with DPDR, we detach. It's kind of like an airbag cushion in a car crash type of thing. We get this foggy shield right in our view and we have no choice but to all of a sudden just be in a dream.
Why does DPDR impact your memory?
Ooh, okay, so there's times in my life where years that have been deleted from my mind, which is why I'm such an avid picture taker. I love taking pictures, I love making videos, I always have, to a very heightened degree at times. But yeah, I feel like 2013, I don't quite remember, 2017, 2018, it's completely gone from my mind. And if I didn't have pictures to remember it, I wouldn't. And I think, again, it's my brain's response to stress, to depression. It archives parts of my life, kind of, if you envision a library with filed folders, it's just archived those years because I may have been dealing with something more stressful than other years. It's that shield, it's that airbag. I feel like there's been so many moments where I need to ground myself because I'm getting so stripped away from reality. Especially at public settings like parties, there might be a moment where I just need to go outside. I need to go for a walk. I need to go downstairs and listen to music for a bit to kind of just ground myself and put myself back in reality, because the more an event or a situation becomes overwhelming, in a good or bad way, the more I get pulled into that sunken state, so to speak.
What is it like living with derealization every single day?
It's hard at times. I remember vividly the moment I first experienced derealization because I talked to someone about it in my life. I was 12 years old and I was with my best friend at the time, and we were ice skating, and the environment, it was very warm, it was welcoming, and it was happy, but all of a sudden I was kind of ripped out from reality and I felt very detached and cold, and I explained to my friend what I was feeling and she was very scared. She told me to stop talking about it, which I completely understand. We were 12 years old. She didn't want to converse about the reality of our bodies and experience.
How does it look from the outside?
Oh my goodness. I truly believe that a lot of people wouldn't see it at all. A lot of people with DPDR, they go along with their life like I have, and it's totally hidden.
Can you tell if another person struggles with DPDR?
No.
It's hard to see?
It's really hard to see. I remember a couple years ago, someone close to me who I was in class with every single day, many years later opened up to me saying, I also have the condition. I was never brave enough to tell you, but your poetry helped me with it. I was like, I was never able to tell. It really is a condition that you cannot see. It's not there. It's all in the head.
What was it like when you were a teenager and first started experiencing these symptoms? What did you think?
I was 12 when I first started experiencing symptoms of DPDR, and I was scared, and this void, I had no idea what to do with it, this dreamlike world, this cloudy world. I feel like lights were too bright or they were too dark, noises were too loud or they were too silent at times, and I felt like I was playing a video game, and my friends would look weird all the time. But as I've matured, the void is still present as ever. The foggy, dreamlike world is still present as ever, but it's become much easier to live with because I'm not scared of it, because it's nothing to be scared of.
What do you mean you felt like you were playing a video game?
So when you have DPDR, you are kind of just going through the motions, and it's almost like, okay, I'm waking up, I'm doing this activity, and then I'm doing this action, and then I'm going there, because you need to show up for yourself, because you're dreaming so much. You need to kind of stand at this point of excellence at all time, and kind of just always show up for yourself at 100%, because if you don't, you'll be stuck in that fog. There's been many days where I'm stuck in the fog, but if you show up for yourself, it'll be much easier, I'm sure.
When you're struggling with the symptoms of DPDR and you're feeling like everything's not real, a lot of times on the outside, will you wear a smile?
100%. You're seeing right through me, Chris. There's been so many times where I'm at a public function or I'm performing, and I'm faced with that fogginess and that cloud, and I just need to keep going. It's a shield. It's obstructing my view, but it's not obstructing my whole view, which is something I remind myself in the moment, and I keep going. DPDR, again, it's this kind of foggy veil that's put over your head. It's this grainy film view that you can't really get away from your vision. It's there, but it's not visually present to others at all.
Does it vary in the degree it impacts you day to day?
Of course, if I'm in public settings, it's always worse. So concerts or grocery stores are the worst. I feel like when I'm dissociating, it's either that lights are too bright or they're too dark, and I'm kind of in a vignette world of sorts. So whenever there's really, really high white lighting, I struggle, and crowded places as well.
Why do you think you dissociate more when you're in a crowded space?
I think it's my nervous system's direct response to that trauma that I had.
What's it like to have that little bit of memory loss that comes with DPDR?
It's odd because at times I find, and I have been told, that I have an elephant memory where I remember exactly what I wore to a specific event and what day it was and what the weather was many, many years ago. But there's some events that have completely archived from my mind, and I don't understand why my brain chooses to archive some and keep others. So at times it could be annoying. I definitely did find it annoying when I was 16, but at 26 it's just something that happens, and I've actually learned to laugh about it. When someone brings up something that's happened, I say, "That happened? Like, you don't remember it?" No.
You haven't found any correlation, though, of what you remember and what you don't?
No, it seems like it's at random sometimes. It's almost randomized. My brain perceives some events as threats and some events as not being so dangerous. I'm not sure why. And again, it goes back to those triggers where I could be in a very happy situation, but all of a sudden I'll be ripped out of it.
And I'm sure it's hard to be aware of all your triggers because your brain might be connecting something to your trauma that you're not even conscious of.
Exactly. I think, again, the brain is a beautiful, complex, complicated thing, and it's limitless for the power that it has and for what it does to protect us. I always have to remind myself that it's doing this to protect me. Why? I don't know. I might know one day, when there's more studies done about DPDR, why it archives certain memories and archives others. I'm not sure, but I persistently remind myself that it's doing it to protect me, and that brings me comfort.
Is DPDR acquired from continuous trauma, or is one traumatic event enough to trigger it in a person?
It's usually one traumatic event, and people can eventually come out of that cloudy state, that foggy, dreamlike world. Unfortunately for me, I continued having traumatic events, and that led to more chronic derealization throughout my life. Like I was saying, DPDR, we think it's attached to the fight or flight part of the brain, and as I experienced more trauma in my life, my DPDR got more chronic. So for me, I viewed it as a shield, DPDR as a shield, and many, many years ago I was scared of it and I didn't want it in my life, but now I kind of view it as a positive thing. It's helped me a lot, especially in my career as a public speaker and an actress and a poet, all which are very performative in nature. Because of DPDR, I've consequently lost like the feelings of shyness and embarrassment and stage fright. I'm an actress, and I find that acting and DPDR, they have so many similarities within them. As an actor, you disconnect from yourself. You become the character. When I get to set, it's a very smooth transition from Samara to the character because I'm already dissociating on set. So in a way, I've started to notice all these nuances and these special tricks and these little pros to the condition that 10 years ago I would have never believed you if you would have said that I would have viewed it as a strength.
If you could receive an answer to something you want to know about DPDR that isn't quite known yet, what would you choose?
Oh my goodness. I guess why exactly it targets certain individuals and not others. Why, when we're faced with a fight or flight scenario, why certain people develop DPDR. Especially me at such a young age. When I first started experiencing it when I was 12 years old, I was still a kid. I was playing outside with my friend. It was very odd, it was very weird. Why it happens to certain individuals and not others. And I know it's tied to trauma, and I know it's tied to extreme, turbulent, stressful situations, which I experienced. But also why it intends to stay. Why it's been with me for so long, when I've healed, when I've developed, when I'm doing much better in my life. Why has it persistently remained a part of me? Why doesn't it go away even if I've made all the right decisions in my life? And again, I'm not complaining that it's not gone away, it's a part of me, but I think I'd like to know, why doesn't it dissipate?
What do you want others to understand about DPDR?
That they're not alone. I think the biggest thing about DPDR as a condition is that it's very isolating and it's very lonely, especially when you don't know what you're dealing with. So gaining that title, I started experiencing symptoms when I was 12. I got diagnosed when I was 17 or 18. That title alone gave me so much power and strength to be able to read what I was dealing with, to be able to go to support groups and talk to people who were also dealing with DPDR. Having the title alone is so beneficial, and you'll definitely grow from there.
When you go to get diagnosed, what is that process like? Do they ask you questions?
I went with them with an idea of what I had. I feel we've been talking a lot about art, and I think art, the power of art is very powerful. Healing through creative expression is an amazing tool to use. But there was a YouTuber I would watch back in the day called Dodie, who spoke about her symptoms of DPDR. And I was kind of dumbfounded, because this was exactly what I was feeling for so many years. And she uploaded a video and she talked about her diagnosis and what she's using as coping mechanisms and how she's kind of accepted it in her day-to-day life. And her being that open and advocating for what exactly what I was so lonely about was the first step to go to a doctor and say, hey, this is exactly what I'm feeling. And I really don't know where I would be if she hadn't spoken about it so freely.
What is the most important thing others can do to accommodate you when you're feeling severe symptoms of DPDR?
I would say be patient. Again, the condition is hidden, so you might not even know that I'm dealing with it when I am. But time for me is a really big thing. I feel like those who have DPDR have a very distorted sense of time. So hours and hours can go by and it feels like I'll be sitting here for a couple of minutes, which again, you could find a pro in that is I'm very patient. In a doctor's office, I could hear huffing and puffing for 4 hours straight, but I feel like I've been sitting there for a couple of minutes, which is great. But just be patient with me, because I have a very distorted sense of time, and again, I'm constantly in this dream, which at times could take me out of the life of the party, so to speak, but at times aid me, like in my career. If you're experiencing symptoms of DPDR and you don't know what it is, and if you're watching this video, take a second and realize that you're not alone in it. I think it's a very isolating condition in the way that you might feel like you're crazy because you're in a dream, but you're not. You're very much real. This is very much real. This is very much happening in real time, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. And just ground yourself and say to yourself out loud, I'm here, I'm okay, and learn to live alongside it, because I did, and it's helped me.
What are some signs a person might be experiencing DPDR?
The first thing is always visual impairment. So for the longest time, I thought I needed glasses. because the world around me was so blurry. And it didn't help that when I would go get an eye test, it was in a public setting and I was dissociating. I was in a state of dissociation. But I once did an eye test with my friend who was studying eye science in a very calm setting in her home. I have 20/20 vision. I don't have vision impairment. I never did. So it's very, the first thing you always sense is this blurry, weird world around you, and it's very gray and dull in color. And there was a time in my life where I thought, is this just part of growing up? Is becoming an adult having the color stripped away from the world? Not at all. It was the DPDR. It was that foggy shield, because the world is still very colorful.
What are some of your coping mechanisms for DPDR?
Art is the only way, the only surefire activity I've found in my life that completely strips DPDR away from me. It's like I've never had it for an hour or two, or for however long I'm writing, or for however long I'm singing or public speaking. When I'm engaged in art and creation, I feel so alive. I feel like it's what I should be doing. I'm finally living out my purpose, that there's no room for the dream to be there. There's no room for the fogginess to be there. So it kind of dissipates like a foggy dew in the morning. It just goes away when I'm writing. And that's why poetry has been so beneficial for me. And also consuming other people's poetry and other people's music. It's so priceless, and I'm so thankful for art. And I encourage anyone who's also going through the symptoms of DPDR to go head first, engulf themselves in some art form. You won't regret it.